In the shadowed quiet of the late afternoon, a mother named Sarah Jensen clutched the leash of her loyal golden retriever, Buddy, as they crossed the old iron bridge spanning the roaring river below. The forest around them was dense, the towering pines whispering secrets in the cool breeze. But the serenity was deceptive. Unseen eyes watched from the tree line, calculating, waiting. Without warning, two figures emerged from the shadows, their faces obscured by dirt-smudged masks. In a swift, brutal motion, they grabbed Sarah and Buddy, yanking the leash from her hand. Panic surged through Sarah's veins as she struggled against their iron grips, but the attackers were ruthless. Before she could scream, they shoved her and the dog over the railing. Before we continue, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss a new video. And tell me, where are you watching this video from? I love seeing all different people come together for these stories. The world tilted as gravity pulled them downward, the cold wind whipping past their faces. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, a chaotic rhythm of terror and disbelief. The river below was turbulent, its swirling currents hungry and unforgiving. The assailants, standing at the edge, exchanged grim looks, certain that no one would be foolish enough to follow them into the treacherous waters. Hidden behind a cluster of trees nearby stood Navy SEAL Ryan Carter, enjoying a rare moment of solitude after a grueling training exercise. His sharp eyes caught the sudden movement on the bridge. Time seemed to slow as he saw Sarah and Buddy pitched into the churning river. Without hesitation, Ryan's instincts took over. He barked a sharp command to his canine partner, Max, a powerful German shepherd who was already alert and ready. Ryan sprinted forward, his boots pounding against the earth. Max surged beside him, muscles coiled and eyes fixed on the unfolding chaos. The river below was swift and merciless, but Ryan didn't hesitate. He dove off the bridge, plunging into the icy water with a force born of urgency and training. The cold enveloped him instantly, biting through his gear and numbing his limbs. The current yanked at his body like a wild beast, but Ryan fought against it, swimming towards the struggling figures beneath him. He spotted Sarah, her arms flailing as she desperately clung to Buddy, who paddled frantically, his golden fur slicked and drenched. Ryan reached out, grabbing Sarah's arm and pulling her towards the surface. Max followed closely, his powerful jaws gently gripping Buddy's scruff to steady the frightened dog. Together, the trio battled the river's fury as Ryan propelled them towards the shore. The attackers watched helplessly from above, rage and frustration etched into their features. Finally, Ryan hauled Sarah and Buddy onto the rocky bank, gasping for air but alive. Sarah's body trembled from the shock and cold, her eyes wide with disbelief and gratitude. Max sat obediently beside Ryan, his tongue lolling as he surveyed the scene, ready to defend at a moment's notice. Ryan quickly assessed the situation, adrenaline sharpening his senses. The attackers had vanished into the forest, but their threat was far from over. He scanned the surrounding area, alert for any signs of pursuit. Sarah clutched Buddy tightly, her breath ragged, while Ryan tore strips of his shirt to wrap around her arms, stanching minor scrapes and bruises inflicted during the fall. Despite the chaos, Ryan's calm presence anchored Sarah. "You're safe now," he assured her, his voice steady and reassuring. "We'll get you both out of here." Max nudged Sarah's hand gently with his nose, sensing her fear and exhaustion. The bond between the woman and her dog was palpable, a lifeline amid the turmoil. Ryan's mind raced as he pieced together the fragments of what he had witnessed. This was no random accident. It was a calculated attack meant to silence Sarah and erase any witnesses. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the riverbank, Ryan prepared for what lay ahead. With Max by his side and Sarah and Buddy in tow, He moved swiftly, determined to protect them from the darkness that still lurked just beyond the trees. The battle to survive had only just begun. The forest around them was alive with muted whispers, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a hawk, and the steady rush of the river carving its path through the rugged terrain. Ryan Carter led the way with deliberate steps, his boots crunching on the carpet of pine needles and broken twigs. Beside him, Max moved with silent precision, ears alert and nose twitching, ever vigilant for signs of danger. This wild, untamed landscape was both a sanctuary and a threat. Towering evergreens stretched toward the gray sky, their branches swaying gently but hiding shadows that could conceal enemies. The steep banks of the river loomed nearby, jagged rocks jutting out dangerously close to the foaming water below. Every inch of this terrain demanded respect. One misstep could spell disaster. Ryan's military training kicked in as he scanned the environment. His years as a Navy SEAL had honed every sense, teaching him to read the smallest cues: broken branches, displaced stones, faint footprints in damp soil. The wilderness was a battlefield in its own right, and survival depended on understanding its language. Sarah Jensen struggled to keep pace, her limbs aching from the fall and the cold that still clung to her skin. Buddy trotted close, his fur matted but his tail wagging weakly, a steadfast companion through the ordeal. Despite her exhaustion, Sarah's eyes burned with determination, refusing to be broken by the violence she had endured. Ryan glanced back at her, a flicker of concern crossing his face. "We need to find a safe spot to rest and assess your injuries properly," he said, his voice steady but kind. "There's a clearing a few 100 yards ahead. We can use it to regroup." Sarah nodded, grateful for the calm authority he exuded. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know what I'd have done without you." Ryan allowed himself a brief smile, but quickly refocused. "Let's keep moving. We're not out of danger yet." As they pressed forward, Ryan began to share a glimpse of his background, a way to anchor Sarah's spiraling thoughts. "I'm Ryan Carter, Navy SEAL, recently back from deployment. Max here is my partner, trained for search and rescue and combat support." He gestured toward the German shepherd, who sat obediently at his side, eyes gleaming with both intelligence and loyalty. Max's presence was reassuring, a living symbol of trust and protection. Sarah reached down to scratch behind the dog's ears, feeling a flicker of comfort amid the tension. Ryan continued, "This area is tough terrain. Steep slopes, dense forest, and a river that can turn deadly if you're not careful. But it's also familiar to me. I know how to navigate it and use it to our advantage." The clearing they reached was a small oasis of calm amidst the wilderness, a patch of sunlit grass bordered by thick shrubs and tall trees. Ryan set Sarah down gently, helping her sit on a fallen log as he began a quick but thorough survey of her condition. Her arms bore bruises and scrapes, some deep but not life-threatening. The cold had left her shivering, but her pulse was steady. Buddy curled at her feet, offering warmth and silent support. Ryan tore open his field pack, pulling out a compact first aid kit. He worked methodically, cleaning wounds with antiseptic wipes and applying bandages while explaining each step. "We need to prevent infection and keep you as warm as possible. Hypothermia is a real risk out here." Sarah watched him closely, her trust in his expertise growing with every action. "You've done this before," she said softly. "More times than I can count," Ryan admitted. "Survival training is part of the job, but it's not just about physical skills. It's about staying calm and thinking ahead, especially when you don't know what's coming next." As he finished, Ryan rose and scanned the perimeter once more. The forest was deceptively quiet, the stillness broken only by the distant roar of the river. He knew better than to assume they were safe. "Max, eyes and ears," Ryan murmured. And the dog sprang into motion, weaving through the underbrush with practiced ease, nose to the ground, searching. Sarah took a deep breath, drawing strength from the presence of both man and dog. The forest was vast and unforgiving, but in this moment, she felt a fragile thread of hope. Ryan crouched beside her again, lowering his voice. "I need to know everything you saw, everything you remember about what happened on that bridge. It might help us figure out who's after you and why." Sarah's gaze darkened as she recalled the brief flash of masked faces, the cold determination in their eyes. I saw something I wasn't supposed to," she began hesitantly. "There's a group operating in the area, a crime syndicate. They're involved in illegal logging, smuggling, and worse. I stumbled on their operation, and they tried to silence me." Ryan's jaw tightened. "That explains the attack. These people won't stop until they think you're out of the picture." Sarah swallowed hard, the weight of her knowledge pressing down on her. "I don't want to be a victim. I want to fight back." Ryan nodded approvingly. "Good, because that's exactly what we're going to do. But first, we need to get you somewhere secure." The sun began to dip behind the trees, casting long shadows across the clearing. Ryan knew nightfall would bring new dangers, cold, disorientation, and the cover it gave to those who hunted them. He rose again, signaling Sarah to stand with his help. "We'll move to a hidden spot nearby, one I know well. It's fortified and offers a vantage point. Max and I have used it during training exercises." The promise of shelter was a balm to Sarah's frayed nerves. With renewed determination, she followed Ryan and Max deeper into the forest, every step a cautious advance into uncertainty. The bond between the three grew stronger as they navigated the wilderness together, man, woman, and dog united by circumstance and resolve. The forest was ruthless, but with Ryan's expertise and Max's instincts, they had a fighting chance. As dusk settled, the trio disappeared into the shadows of the towering trees, the river's roar fading behind them. The battle for survival was only beginning, but for now, they moved forward, silent, vigilant, and unyielding. The dense forest canopy filtered the fading light, casting mottled shadows on the uneven ground as Ryan Carter moved with practiced stealth alongside Sarah and Buddy. Max, the German shepherd, pressed ahead, nose to the earth, alert for the faintest trace of danger. The river's relentless roar had diminished behind them, replaced by the soft crackle of twigs and the distant call of a lone owl beginning its nightly vigil. Ryan's breath was steady, controlled, an instinct honed over countless missions and survival scenarios. His eyes scanned the underbrush attentively, seeking signs of pursuit or traps left by the assailants who had so recently tried to end Sarah's life. But it was Max who first alerted them, ears pricked and body tense as he halted abruptly, nose twitching in the cool air. "There," Ryan whispered, crouching low beside the dog. Max pawed at a cluster of broken branches near the edge of their path. "Fresh footprints. They're close." Sarah's heart hammered in her chest, a wild rhythm of fear and adrenaline. She clutched Buddy's leash tightly, the dog sensing her tension but remaining calm under Max's steady presence. Ryan's gaze shifted between the tracks and the surrounding trees. "They're moving fast, but not reckless," he observed. "They want to find us, but they're cautious, probably scouting ahead." Max growled softly, a low rumble that sent a shiver through the still air. Ryan placed a reassuring hand on the dog's neck. "Easy, Max. We're not alone, but we're not outnumbered yet." The group pressed onward, Ryan leading them through a narrow game trail that wound deeper into the forest. The terrain was rough, roots twisted like serpents beneath their feet, and the earth was slick with moisture from a recent rain. Sarah stumbled once, but Ryan's steady hand caught her elbow before she fell. "Careful," he murmured, eyes flicking back to her. "Every step counts now." They reached a small clearing bathed in the silver light of the rising moon. Here, Ryan paused, kneeling beside a moss-covered rock and pulling from his pack a compact first aid kit. He motioned for Sarah to sit, while Buddy settled obediently at her feet. "Let's get you out of those wet clothes," Ryan said, his voice low but firm. "Hypothermia is a silent killer, especially out here." Sarah's teeth chattered as Ryan carefully peeled away her soaked jacket and shirt, replacing them with a dry thermal layer he carried. He wrapped her in a lightweight emergency blanket, the reflective material shimmering faintly in the moonlight. Max sat nearby, eyes never leaving the tree line, his body coiled like a spring ready to leap. Ryan's hands moved with efficiency, cleaning Sarah's scrapes and bruises with antiseptic wipes, applying bandages to staunch the bleeding. His touch was gentle but purposeful, a contrast to the harshness of the wilderness around them. "Buddy's shaken, but unharmed," Ryan noted, kneeling to check the dog's paws for injuries. Dogs have a way of sensing danger, but they also bring comfort. He's going to be a big help. Sarah nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's my best friend. I don't know how I'd have made it without him." Ryan looked up, meeting her gaze with steady eyes. "You're stronger than you realize. But strength alone won't get us through this. We need to be smart, vigilant." He pulled out a small flashlight and scanned the perimeter, the beam cutting through the darkness. The forest seemed to hold its breath, shadows deepening among the trees. "Do you remember anything else about your attackers?" Ryan asked as he packed away the first aid supplies. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "They wore masks, but I caught glimpses. Tattoos on their hands, a symbol that looked like a snake wrapped around a dagger. I've seen it before in news reports about a local crime syndicate. They're ruthless." Ryan's jaw tightened. "That explains the attack. They won't stop until they think you're silenced." A sudden rustle in the brush snapped their attention toward the sound. Max growled low, hackles rising, as a figure darted between the trees, too quick to identify, but unmistakably human. Ryan rose smoothly, positioning himself between Sarah and the threat. "Stay close," he commanded. The figure slowed, coming into the clearing's edge. A young man, breath rapid, eyes wide with fear or desperation. He raised his hands in surrender. "Wait, I'm not one of them," the young man gasped. "I'm a courier. I was sent to find you, to warn you." Ryan studied him carefully, muscles coiled. "Who sent you?" "The syndicate," the man replied, voice trembling. "They've got new orders. You're in deeper trouble than you think." Sarah's breath caught. "What do you mean?" The courier swallowed hard. "They're planning something bigger, something that could destroy the whole forest and anyone standing in their way. You have to get out of here." Ryan's mind raced. The stakes had just escalated beyond a simple attack. This was a threat to the entire region. "Why come to us?" Ryan asked, narrowing his eyes. The courier hesitated, then said, "Because I don't want to be part of it anymore. I want out. But they'll kill me if I'm caught." Ryan exchanged a glance with Sarah, who nodded slightly, her resolve hardening. "We need to move," Ryan said. "There's a safe house not far from here. I know the way." The courier nodded, relief mingling with fear in his expression. As they prepared to leave the clearing, Ryan took one last look around. Max was alert, muscles taut, ready to spring into action at the first sign of danger. Sarah steadied her breathing, clutching Buddy's leash. The weight of the night pressed down on them, but beneath it was a spark. A fragile hope that survival was still within reach. Together, they vanished into the forest's depths. Shadows among shadows, bound by a shared will to fight against the darkness closing in. The forest grew darker as the night deepened. The moonlight filtered through dense foliage, creating fleeting patterns on the uneven ground beneath their feet. Ryan Carter's boots tread softly but purposefully along the narrow dirt path, flanked on one side by towering pines and on the other by the restless, whispering river. Max, the German shepherd, moved just ahead, his keen senses alert to every sound, every scent carried on the chilly breeze. Sarah Jensen clutched Buddy's leash tightly, her breath shallow but steady, each step a battle against the lingering shock and cold from the earlier attack. The weight of the courier's warning pressed heavily on Ryan's mind. The syndicate's reach was far deeper, their plans more sinister than he had initially imagined. His years as a Navy SEAL had taught him to read danger, not just in weapons and threats, but in the subtle signs. The hurried footsteps, the unnatural silence, the way the world seemed to hold its breath before chaos. Ryan slowed their pace, scanning the surrounding underbrush. Dark shapes loomed like silent sentinels, and the rustling leaves whispered secrets he wasn't yet ready to decipher. "We're not alone," he muttered, his voice low but steady. "They're watching?" Sarah's eyes flicked nervously toward the shadows. "How do you know?" Ryan's gaze sharpened. "Because of the signs. Footprints that don't belong to us, broken twigs deliberately placed, and the absence of normal forest sounds. Predators don't just stalk prey in the wild, they manipulate the environment to unsettle and confuse." Max growled softly, his body tense but controlled. Ryan crouched beside Sarah, pressing a finger to her arm. "Listen to me. We need to keep moving, but stay quiet. If they want to find us, they'll use every tool at their disposal, drones, vehicles, even local informants. We can't afford to be careless." Sarah nodded, swallowing her fear. Buddy whined softly, sensing the tension, but trusting the humans around him. Ryan's mind raced as he pieced together the implications. The attackers hadn't just wanted to silence Sarah. They were hunting them now, using technology and manpower to track their every move. This was a calculated operation, designed to intimidate and eliminate threats swiftly. "They're organized," Ryan said grimly. "They have resources, and they won't hesitate to use force." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Why me? Why target me so violently?" Ryan looked her in the eyes, the weight of truth heavy between them. "Because you're a witness. You saw something you weren't supposed to. And now they want to erase any trace of what you know." He stood and scanned the horizon, his trained eyes catching the faint glow of headlights weaving through the distant trees. The sound of engines hummed low, a mechanical pulse that sent a chill through the night. "They're coming," Ryan said, urgency sharpening his tone. "We need to find cover." He led them off the path, guiding Sarah and Buddy through a thicket of brambles and fallen branches to a shallow depression beneath a cluster of fir trees. The natural canopy provided concealment, masking them from prying eyes and headlights. Ryan signaled for silence, motioning for Sarah to lie flat while he and Max took up watchful positions nearby. Minutes passed with agonizing slowness. The mechanical hum grew louder, punctuated by the crunch of tires on gravel and the murmur of voices speaking in low, hurried tones. Ryan's grip tightened on the rifle slung across his back. He was ready to defend, to fight if necessary, but his priority was to keep Sarah and Buddy safe. Through a small gap in the trees, Ryan caught sight of a convoy of black SUVs moving cautiously along the forest road. The vehicle's windows were tinted, but the silhouettes of armed men could be seen inside, scanning the woods with night vision goggles and handheld devices. "They're sweeping the area," Ryan whispered. "Looking for us." Sarah's breath hitched, but she forced herself to remain still, trusting Ryan's instincts and Max's keen senses. Max suddenly growled low, his hackles raised, and Ryan tensed, ready for an attack. But the dog simply shifted position, alerting Ryan to a faint rustle coming from the opposite direction. Ryan's eyes darted toward the sound. A shadow moved swiftly among the trees, a figure cloaked in darkness, slipping silently through the underbrush. Ryan raised a hand, signaling caution. "Stay down. Don't make a sound." The figure emerged cautiously from the shadows, a man dressed in dark tactical gear, face obscured by a hood. In his gloved hand, he held a small device emitting a faint blue glow. Ryan's heart pounded. Could this be an ally or another enemy? The man's voice was a harsh whisper. "You're not safe here. They've deployed drones equipped with thermal imaging. They'll find you if you stay." Ryan's mind raced. The syndicate's resources were beyond anything he'd anticipated. "Where's the safe house?" Ryan asked quietly. The man hesitated before replying. "Not far. Through the ravine, past the old logging camp. But you need to move fast. They're closing in." Ryan nodded. "Lead the way." He turned to Sarah, helping her to her feet. Buddy barked softly, sensing the urgency. As they slipped through the forest, navigating the treacherous terrain with cautious speed, Ryan's mind was a storm of strategy and resolve. Every step was a calculated risk, every breath a reminder of the stakes. They crossed the ravine, shadows dancing on jagged rocks as the river roared below. The logging camp lay abandoned, its skeletal remains a testament to the forest's fading battle with human greed. Ryan scanned the area, noting places to hide, routes to escape, and vantage points to monitor their pursuers. The safe house emerged, a small cabin, weathered but sturdy, nestled among towering pines. Ryan moved swiftly, checking doors and windows before ushering Sarah and the courier inside. Max patrolled the perimeter, ears perked for any sign of intrusion. Inside, Ryan secured the cabin, activating a series of makeshift alarms and barricades. He set up a communication device to contact authorities and prepare for extraction. Sarah sank onto a rickety chair, exhaustion overtaking her as the adrenaline faded. Ryan knelt beside her, offering a bottle of water. "You're safe, for now, but we need to be ready. They'll come looking again." Sarah met his eyes, a spark of defiance igniting within her. "I'm not going down without a fight." Ryan allowed himself a brief nod of respect. Together, with Max and Buddy by their side, they prepared for the battle ahead. A fight not just for survival, but for justice in the face of relentless darkness. The cabin was modest, a weathered structure nestled deep within the forest, its wooden frame cloaked in layers of moss and shadow. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, mingled with the faint metallic tang of Ryan Carter's gear. The soft glow from a battered lantern cast flickering light across the cramped interior, illuminating the determined faces of those gathered within. Sarah Jensen sat on a creaking wooden chair, the weight of exhaustion pressing heavily on her shoulders. Her fingers clenched the edges of her jacket, knuckles pale but steady. Buddy rested at her feet, his golden fur tousled but calm, a beacon of unwavering loyalty in the uncertain night. Ryan stood nearby, his sharp eyes scanning the sparse room, while the courier, still shrouded in shadow, paced nervously, his unease palpable. Ryan's voice cut through the silence, firm but laced with urgency. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Sarah, you said you witnessed something. Something that put you in their crosshairs. Tell me everything you remember. Sarah inhaled deeply, summoning the fragments of memory that had haunted her since the attack. I was near the old logging site, gathering samples for an environmental report. That's when I stumbled onto their operation, illegal logging, smuggling shipments under the cover of night. I managed to snap photos, record conversations, enough to expose them. Her eyes flickered with a mix of fear and resolve. But it wasn't just about trees. I heard talk of weapons, drugs, and something bigger, a plan to expand their territory by any means necessary. Ryan nodded slowly, absorbing the gravity of her words. That explains why they went after you with such brutality. They don't just want to protect their profits. They want to silence any threat. The courier shifted uneasily. They're ruthless. They've got people everywhere, including local officials. It's why I came to warn you. Staying hidden won't be enough. Ryan's jaw tightened. Then we need evidence. Something concrete to bring to the authorities. Sarah, those photos and recordings you took, do you still have them? Sarah nodded, pulling a small, battered phone from her pocket. It's all there. But I can't risk sending it over unsecured networks. They're watching. Ryan's mind raced. The syndicate's reach was deep, their tactics sophisticated. They wouldn't hesitate to intercept communications, eliminate witnesses, and cover their tracks. We'll need to secure that data, Ryan said. Get it to people we can trust. He turned to the courier. What about law enforcement? Any allies? The courier shook his head grimly. Corruption runs deep. A few good officers maybe, but they're outnumbered and outgunned. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Then we'll have to handle this ourselves, for now. He moved toward a battered wooden table, pulling out a tactical map of the region. The cabin's walls were adorned with faded photographs and pinned notes, remnants of past missions and survival drills. Here, Ryan said, pointing to a cluster of marked locations. This is their main operation hub, and these are supply routes. If we can infiltrate, gather more evidence, and disrupt their logistics, we might be able to cripple them. Sarah leaned forward, determination rekindling in her eyes. I know the area. I can help. Ryan nodded. Good. But it won't be easy. They're armed and dangerous. The courier spoke up, voice steady despite the tension. There's a local contact, a former syndicate member who turned informant. He's hidden nearby and might be willing to help. Ryan considered the risk. We'll need him, but cautiously. Trust is a luxury we can't afford. As the group strategized, Max lay alert by the door, ears twitching at every sound outside. The forest beyond the cabin was a living maze, filled with both allies and enemies lurking in the shadows. Hours slipped by as plans took shape, each detail weighed and measured. Ryan trained Sarah in basic survival tactics and self-defense, teaching her how to move silently, recognize danger signs, and use the terrain to their advantage. Buddy, sensing the growing bond between them, wagged his tail with quiet approval. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, carrying with it the distant echoes of engines and footsteps, the syndicate's men continuing their relentless search. Ryan paused, looking out a cracked window at the darkened forest. They'll come back, he said quietly. Stronger, more prepared. Sarah met his gaze, steel hardening in her eyes. Then we'll be ready. The night deepened, the cabin a fragile bastion against the encroaching storm. Inside, a quiet resolve settled over the unlikely alliance. Three souls bound by circumstance, determined to expose the truth and fight back against the darkness threatening to consume them all. The fire's glow flickered against the rough wooden walls of the cabin as Ryan crouched beside Sarah, demonstrating a series of precise movements. Outside, the forest whispered secrets on the cool night breeze, the distant calls of nocturnal creatures weaving through the shadows. Buddy lay close by, ears perked, sensing the shift in energy. A quiet training ground born from urgency and necessity. Ryan's voice was low and steady, a calm anchor in the turbulent storm of their reality. "This isn't just about surviving tonight," he said, eyes locked on Sarah's as he showed her how to grip a makeshift weapon, a sturdy branch carved smooth from the forest floor. "You need to be ready for anything. They're ruthless and well-armed, but with the right skills, you can level the playing field." Sarah nodded, muscles tensing as she mirrored his movements. Her body was still stiff from the ordeal, but her resolve burned brighter than ever. "I didn't know how to fight before," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "But I can't be a victim anymore." Max circled around them, tail wagging with quiet encouragement, his presence a steady reminder that she was not alone. Ryan guided her through basic hand-to-hand combat techniques. How to leverage an opponent's momentum, target vulnerable points, and defend against surprise attacks. Each motion was deliberate, designed to build confidence and muscle memory. Sarah's breath quickened as she absorbed the training, her mind sharpening with every strike and block. "Good," Ryan praised, stepping back to let her rest. "Now, we work on situational awareness. In the wild, every sound, every movement tells a story. You need to learn to listen and read the environment." He gestured toward the window, where the forest stood silent but alive. "Close your eyes. Listen." Sarah obeyed, the world narrowing to a tapestry of distant, rustling leaves, the soft trickle of the nearby stream, and the occasional crack of a twig underfoot. She focused, sifting through the sounds, trying to distinguish the natural from the unnatural. "Now open your eyes," Ryan said. "See the light filtering through the trees? Notice the shadows? They can hide dangers or offer protection. Use them." He led her outside, where the moon cast pale silver across the forest floor. Ryan moved like a shadow, demonstrating how to blend into the environment, move without noise, and use the terrain to gain advantage. Sarah followed, stumbling initially, but growing steadier as Ryan's patient instruction took hold. Buddy padded alongside, his keen senses complementing their efforts. As the night deepened, Ryan introduced basic survival strategies: how to find safe water, identify edible plants, and create simple traps or alarms to signal intruders. He emphasized the importance of staying calm under pressure, controlling fear, and thinking several steps ahead. Between lessons, they shared quiet moments. Sarah recounting fragments of her life before the attack, Ryan revealing glimpses of his military past and the losses that drove him. A bond took root, forged in the crucible of shared purpose and unspoken understanding. The courier, though hesitant, observed from a corner, occasionally offering insights about the syndicate's tactics and local terrain. His presence was a reminder of the stakes, the complexity of the fight ahead. As dawn approached, the first pale light filtering through the trees, Sarah felt a mixture of exhaustion and empowerment. The training had given her tools, physical and mental, to face the darkness encroaching on her world. Ryan offered a rare, faint smile. "You're ready for the next step. But remember, this is only the beginning. Survival isn't just about strength. It's about resilience and adaptability." Sarah nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "I'm ready." Outside, the forest stirred with the promise of a new day, the shadows retreating but never fully gone. Inside the cabin, the quiet preparations continued, an unyielding stand against the forces determined to silence the truth. The dawn's pale light barely pierced the dense canopy as Ryan Carter crouched behind a thick stand of firs, his breath steady but eyes sharp. Beside him, Sarah Jensen pressed herself against the rough bark, her heart pounding, not from exertion, but from the heavy weight of impending danger. Buddy sat quietly at her feet, ears twitching, alert to every sound in the forest stillness. Max, ever vigilant, patrolled their perimeter, his nose close to the ground, tracking invisible trails left by shadowy pursuers. The syndicate's men had returned with renewed vigor. Their search was relentless, employing drones that hummed softly overhead, their thermal imaging cutting through the forest's natural concealment. Black SUVs prowled the dirt roads, headlights sweeping in calculated sweeps, engines growling like predators on the hunt. Ryan's military training told him this was no ordinary manhunt. It was a strategic operation designed to flush them out, to break their resolve. "We can't stay here," Ryan whispered, voice low but urgent. "They're tightening the noose." Sarah's eyes flickered with fear and defiance. "What do we do?" Ryan scanned the landscape, calculating their options. The terrain was both ally and adversary. Steep ravines offered cover, but were treacherous to navigate. Dense underbrush could hide them, but slowed movement. "We use the terrain," Ryan said decisively. "Set traps, create distractions, and stay one step ahead." He pulled from his pack several tripwires and small noisemakers, improvised alarms designed to alert them to approaching footsteps. With practiced hands, Ryan and Sarah worked swiftly, stringing the wires between trees, anchoring them in the underbrush. "These will give us early warning," Ryan explained, crouching beside her. "If they trigger one, we move immediately." Sarah nodded, her fingers steady despite the tension. Buddy sniffed curiously, then settled back, sensing her calm determination. As they laid the last trap, a sudden rustle echoed through the undergrowth. Max growled low, his hackles raised. Ryan's hand moved instinctively to the knife at his belt, eyes scanning the darkness. A figure emerged, a young boy, no older than 15, face smeared with dirt and eyes wide with fear. "Please," the boy whispered, voice trembling. "I'm not with them. I want to help." Ryan's gaze hardened. "How do we know that?" The boy swallowed hard, stepping forward cautiously. "I've seen what they do. Burning forests, threatening families. I can't be part of it anymore." Sarah exchanged a glance with Ryan, weighing trust against necessity. "All right," Ryan said finally. "But you follow our rules. No mistakes." The boy nodded eagerly, relief washing over his features. With their new ally, the group set about creating a network of observation points. Using binoculars and handheld radios salvaged from the cabin, they monitored the movements of the syndicate's forces. Hours stretched, tension mounting with every passing moment. The forest, once a sanctuary, had become a stage for a deadly game of cat and mouse. As twilight approached, headlights flickered in the distance, another sweep by the syndicate's vehicles. Ryan signaled for silence. "Stay low. We move on my mark." They slipped through the shadows, navigating a narrow ridge that overlooked the main forest road. From this vantage point, they could see the convoy below, unaware of the eyes watching from above. Ryan motioned to the boy. "You're with Max. Stay quiet and keep watch." The boy nodded, disappearing into the underbrush with the dog. Sarah's pulse quickened as Ryan outlined their plan. "We'll create a diversion. Set a fire on the far side of the ridge. It'll draw their attention and buy us time to move deeper into the forest. Sarah hesitated. A fire? Won't that endanger the forest? Ryan's expression was grim. It's a calculated risk. Sometimes survival means making hard choices. Together, they gathered dry brush and fallen branches, stacking a small pile at the edge of the ridge. Ryan pulled a flare from his pack, igniting it with a spark that flared brightly in the growing dusk. "Now," he whispered, tossing the flare into the pile. Flames erupted quickly, licking at the dry wood and sending smoke spiraling into the sky. The distant convoy halted abruptly, headlights pivoting toward the blaze. "Move," Ryan commanded. They retreated swiftly, slipping through the shadows as the syndicate's forces scrambled toward the fire. Breathing heavily, Sarah glanced back at the flickering glow, a mixture of guilt and relief swirling within her. Ryan's voice cut through the night. "We're not safe yet, but every step forward counts." The forest closed around them once more, a labyrinth of shadows and secrets. With traps set, allies found, and distractions made, Ryan, Sarah, and their companions pressed onward, undaunted, vigilant, and unyielding in their fight against the encroaching darkness. The night was thick with tension, as Ryan Carter crouched behind a fallen log, his breath steady, muscles coiled like a predator ready to strike. The forest around them was alive with rustling leaves, distant animal calls, and the low murmur of voices creeping through the underbrush. Sarah Jensen pressed herself against the rough bark of a nearby tree, her eyes wide but focused, clutching Buddy's leash tightly as the dog sat alert at her side. Max prowled silently at Ryan's command, his keen senses attuned to the slightest disturbance. The syndicate's men had finally found their hideout, a small clearing nestled deep within the forest, shielded by natural barriers, but no longer secret. The attackers moved with calculated precision, weapons drawn, flashlights piercing the darkness as they advanced. Ryan signaled to Sarah, voice barely a whisper. "Stay calm. We hold our ground until I say." He scanned the area swiftly, taking note of the terrain. Fallen branches, thick undergrowth, and uneven ground offering both cover and obstacles. The assailants were outnumbered but confident, their arrogance a dangerous weakness. Suddenly, a twig snapped underfoot, betraying their position. Max growled low, his body tensing as the first flashlight swung in their direction. "Contact!" Ryan shouted, drawing his weapon and firing a warning shot into the air. The sharp crack echoed through the trees, followed by shouts and rapid footsteps. The battle erupted in a flurry of motion. Ryan moved with lethal efficiency, taking down the nearest attacker with a precise strike, while Max lunged to intercept another, teeth flashing in the moonlight. Sarah, heart pounding, remembered her training and grabbed a sturdy branch, swinging with all her strength to fend off an assailant who lunged toward her. Buddy barked fiercely, distracting another attacker long enough for Ryan to subdue him. The clearing became a chaotic battlefield, shadows twisting and merging as gunfire cracked and bodies collided. Ryan's tactical skill was evident. He anticipated moves, used the terrain expertly, and coordinated with Max and Sarah to outmaneuver their foes. Despite their determination, the attackers were relentless, fueled by desperation and the desire to eliminate the threat once and for all. Amid the chaos, a figure emerged from the shadows. Lieutenant Marcus Riley. His eyes gleamed with cold calculation, a grim smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. So the little witness and her protector finally show themselves. Riley sneered, weapon raised. Ryan's gaze locked onto Riley, anger and resolve flaring within. "It ends here, Riley. Your corruption stops now." Riley laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You're outnumbered, outgunned, and out of your depth." But Ryan was undeterred. "Maybe. But we're not alone." From the forest's edge, the soft thud of boots heralded reinforcements. Local law enforcement officers, armed and determined, led by Special Agent Sarah Jensen, Sarah's estranged sister, who had been quietly investigating Riley's criminal activities from within the system. The arrival shifted the balance. Riley's men hesitated, caught between surprise and retreat. Ryan seized the moment, rallying Sarah and Max. "Hold position. Authorities are here." The agents moved swiftly, rounding up the attackers and securing the area. Riley's smug expression faltered as he realized the tide had turned. "Lieutenant Marcus Riley, you're under arrest for corruption, assault, and conspiracy," the lead agent declared, cuffing him with practiced efficiency. The clearing fell into a tense silence, broken only by the labored breaths of those who had fought and the distant wail of sirens approaching. Sarah sank to her knees, relief washing over her in waves. Buddy nuzzled her hand, a comforting presence amid the aftermath. Ryan approached, offering a hand to help her up. "We did it." She nodded, eyes shining with gratitude and exhaustion. "Thanks to you and Max. We couldn't have done this alone." The officers began collecting evidence, photos, documents, and testimonies that would dismantle the syndicate's network and expose Riley's betrayal. As dawn approached, the forest seemed to exhale, the first light filtering through the trees, signaling a new beginning. Ryan and Sarah stood side by side, the bond forged through hardship and battle unbreakable. The fight was far from over, but tonight, justice had taken a crucial step forward. The morning air was crisp and sharp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth as local law enforcement officers moved methodically through the clearing, securing the perimeter and gathering evidence. Ryan Carter stood with Sarah Jensen and Max, watching as the syndicate's operatives were handcuffed and led away, their faces masks of defeat and bitterness. The early sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting long shadows that seemed to pull the darkness from the forest's depths, revealing the scars left by the violent confrontation. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she handed over her phone to Special Agent Reynolds, the lead investigator who had arrived with the task force. "These contain everything: the photos, the recordings, the location data," she said, voice steady despite the exhaustion etched into her features. "It's all the proof we need to bring them down." Reynolds nodded, his expression grim but respectful. "You did well, Sarah. Without your courage and Ryan's support, this operation wouldn't have succeeded." Ryan glanced at Sarah, pride and relief mingling in his gaze. "You were incredible out there. You faced down danger and didn't back down." Sarah offered a weary smile, her bond with Ryan and Max feeling more like family than mere survival partners. Buddy wagged his tail softly, resting his head against her leg, a quiet reminder of the journey they had endured together. As officers processed the arrested men, Ryan's thoughts turned to the broader implications. The syndicate's reach had been vast, infiltrating local government, law enforcement, and business. Dismantling it would take time, patience, and relentless vigilance. Special Agent Reynolds gathered the group for a briefing. "Thanks to the evidence and testimonies collected, we've initiated a full-scale investigation into the syndicate's operations. Several high-profile arrests are expected in the coming weeks." Sarah's eyes glistened with hope. "So the fight isn't over?" "No," Reynolds agreed. "But this is a decisive victory. The network's backbone has been broken, and with your help, justice will prevail." Ryan stepped forward, addressing the officers and agents. "We'll continue to support the investigation, providing any information and assistance necessary. The people behind this won't go quietly." The atmosphere was charged with a sense of purpose, a collective commitment to see the mission through. As the day wore on, Sarah took a moment to visit the riverbank, where the attack had first thrown her and Buddy into the cold current. The water rushed past, indifferent to the human struggles that unfolded along its banks. She knelt, running her fingers through the cool water, reflecting on how far she had come, from a terrified victim to a fighter for justice. Ryan joined her quietly, standing close but giving her the space to gather her thoughts. "You've changed," he said softly. "Stronger, more determined." Sarah looked up, meeting his eyes. "I had to. For me, for Buddy, and for everyone else who's been hurt by them." Ryan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "We'll keep fighting. Together." Back at the command post, Max lay exhausted but alert, his loyalty unwavering as ever. The bond between man and dog had been a lifeline through the darkest moments. As night fell over the forest once more, the immediate threat had been neutralized. But the path ahead remained fraught with challenges. Sarah, Ryan, and their allies prepared for the long road of healing and justice, a testament to resilience, courage, and the unbreakable spirit forged in the crucible of adversity. Months had passed since the stormy nights in the forest, the fierce battles, and the relentless chase. The scars of those days remained etched in memory. But time had begun to heal wounds, both visible and unseen. Sarah Jensen stood at the helm of a new anti-corruption task force, her posture resolute, eyes sharp with purpose. The office was modest, but filled with the quiet hum of determination. A place where justice was no longer a distant hope, but an active mission. Buddy trotted into the room, now a healthy and vibrant companion, his tail wagging with unbridled joy. Sarah knelt, embracing him warmly, the bond between them unshaken by time or trial. Ryan Carter entered quietly, his presence familiar and steady. The Navy SEAL, once a stranger who had plunged into the river to save a woman and her dog, was now an integral part of her world. Max followed, alert but relaxed, a silent guardian in the background. They shared a look, a silent acknowledgement of the journey that had brought them here. The battles fought, the lives saved, and the justice pursued. Sarah gestured toward a map pinned on the wall, dotted with notes and connections. "The Syndicate's remnants are still active, but we're closing in. This task force is the first step toward dismantling the corruption that runs too deep." Ryan nodded. "And you're leading it. I'm proud of you." A faint smile tugged at Sarah's lips. "I couldn't have done it without you. And Max, of course." Max barked softly, as if accepting the compliment. Outside, the puppies, rescued from the overturned police SUV during the blizzard months ago, played in a sunlit yard, their laughter echoing like a promise of new beginnings. Memories of that harsh winter, the frozen ravine, and the desperate rescue lingered, but no longer held power over their lives. Instead, they served as reminders of resilience and hope. Ryan and Sarah stepped onto the porch, the crisp air filled with the scent of pine and fresh earth. They watched the puppies tumble and chase, a living testament to survival and renewal. Sarah turned to Ryan, her voice steady and warm. "This is just the beginning. There's so much more to do." Ryan smiled, a rare softness in his eyes. "And we'll face it together." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting golden light over the landscape, the two stood side by side, partners forged in adversity, united by purpose. The past was a shadow behind them. The future stretched wide and bright before them. In the quiet strength of their bond and the promise of new beginnings, they found hope. A hope that would carry them forward through whatever darkness lay ahead.